kind of funny. My motivation was going to come up here and explain how to fix higher education. Yet, after sitting here since 10 this morning and listening to so many inspiring speakers, I'm starting to relax a little bit about the future of our planet. I'm really impressed. Thank you all so far for this day. This has been awesome. I was compelled to come down here and talk today because I thought it was really interesting that TED was being held, or a TEDx event was being held on a college campus. And I know this isn't necessarily new, but it really struck me because TED, a conference which is about innovation, a conference which is about big ideas, technology, entertainment, design, is happening at a college, right? The ivory tower of academe, where the way you fix something is to set up 17 committees, wait 6 years, and then print a study, right? Well, what I wanted to share today is, if my recent history since graduating is any indicator, we actually need a lot more of this to combine, a lot more of innovation with higher ed, and let me explain. It's actually personally interesting for me to be here back at Carleton again, because when I graduated, I was a little angry. I wasn't angry at Carleton. I wasn't angry at the football team. There is a football team. But I was more actually angry and a little bit disconcerted with myself. I hadn't really planned for the fact that college would be hard, right? And that might have been my fault. I majored in biology, and I saved chemistry, physics, and calculus for my senior year. All subjects which I am deplorable at. So I was really, really burnt out at the end of my college career. And I was having that emotion that I'm sure a lot of you have had at all stages of your life in schooling, where you walk out and you're like, what was that for, right? I was feeling a little lost. I was feeling a little rudderless. And college, this huge decision we all make where, you know, senior year of high school, what are you doing with the rest of your life, and what are you going to major in? And you have these big ideas, and you build them up with why you're going to do what you do. And I didn't have that. I was feeling a little rudderless. So, without a circus nearby, I did the next best thing, and I joined a band. I had been a musician all my life, so joining a band was something I had done since middle school. And we started playing gigs all over the Twin Cities. That spread to gigs around the state, and eventually you're doing what they call touring. We didn't have a van, we had a Subaru, so I was touring in the back of a Subaru, all over the Midwest, living the rock and roll lifestyle. And I hated it. I learned after a couple months, waking up on the floor of this hotel and eating at this Denny's, and all Denny's are the same, that wasn't the life for me, that I probably needed to be more of a homebody. I needed a different career. Well, through the course of being in that band for a couple years, we had made a couple CDs, little shiny plastic discs. You're not aware of what they are, I understand. And the studio environment was something that I really found enthralling. I don't know if it was the dim lights or the small rooms, the walls of glass, but when I quit the band and started talking to some friends saying, what should I do? I found out some friends were going to open a recording studio. And so I started at the bottom of the totem pole, like a lot of people do, as an intern. But through a variety of events, I ended up managing the studio just a few months later. The owner of the facility who opened it had great credit, and he was actually able to build a magnificent facility if you're into recording. The massive, huge recording console, the fancy analog tape machine, the vintage mics from Germany, the whole thing. It was an amazing place to record, and we made some good records and struggled along. Then around 1999 or early 2000, I can't remember exactly, we were all musicians. We were all out at the bar one night, which is another indicator, and it was actually a very interesting conversation. The engineer, who was younger than me at the time, I was probably 23, our engineer's like, hey, you know, there's going to be this thing coming along called digital recording. And we should maybe think about getting it. The real system is called Pro Tools. A lot of people had used digital recording before, and you guys can imagine, take audio but make it work just like a Microsoft Word document, where you can edit it, change it, save revisions, do all sorts of things. within Pro Tools you could do that. And the technology had gotten to the point where you could do full bands, not just some simple editing features. We sat there, we talked about it, and around 2 in the morning, after being overserved by the anxious bartender, we made a decision. Let's do it. Let's buy Pro Tools. And I want to stress the interesting thing about this road that started into what really became, for the rest of my life, a digital revolution, was not a white paper study, was not researched, there wasn't a chart, well, the pros and the cons, which is a great way to make decisions. We just decided to do this, and the next morning we drained the next 3 months of operating capital we had, literally every penny available at our disposal, and we bought a massive $36,000 Pro Tools system. This was a huge bet. If we hadn't made this work, we probably would have had to sell equipment or do a whole bunch of drastic things to stay afloat, but we did it. And almost overnight, we were booked solid. A lot of other people on the coasts, New York, Los Angeles, other big music towns, had embraced digital recording, and artists were already starting to travel with hard drives, expecting, hey, I can pop in here, I can give you my hard drive, you firewire it in, or whatever the thing is, and I can continue my process. And it's interesting, Minneapolis at the time was a real big mecca for traveling musicians, not just in tours, but also the Twin Cities is the home of Target, Best Buy, Music Land, and others. So we were just incredibly, incredibly busy. I thought I had the best job ever. I would show up, I would answer the phone at the studio, and someone would say, can I book time? And I'd say, sure, call back in January. Hang up the phone and go back and make music. Then one day a band came in, and this was a band that I had been wooing to get their business for a long time. I learned early on that if you want to make a great recording, find talented people, right? Find somebody like Katie. Put a microphone in front of talent. Put tin can and string in front of talent, and you'll get something that sounds good. So this band came in, and I gave them the full song and dance. They were great, and I knew if my studio made music with them, it would help spread our message and get us more business. They came in, they said they loved the studio, and they said, we want to book time, and I'm thinking, yes. And they said, we want to book 2 days. And I was really confused. That's not how you make records. You move into the studio, you stay for months, we'll have cots in the corner. It's going to be like the White Album. Well, just a few months after the big systems for Pro Tools came out, DigiDesign, their parent company, released another device. It was called the Digi-001, and it was a little blue box that you could get for about $800. And what this band had done is their bass player had gone out and taken the band's recording budget and bought Pro Tools for his house so he could sit at home, find the absolute perfect part, save it, and pass on the hard drive to the next person. The guitar player had gone out and bought a 001 so he could go home, get the best solo, work it out in the comfort of his home, not on anybody else's dime but his own rent or mortgage, right? And he did that, and the singer did the absolute same thing. So the whole band had taken their recording budget and invested in the technology for themselves. It was only the drummer with, a kick drum and a snare drum and all the toms and everything else that needed more microphones and more inputs. So the drummer's like, I need 2 days in the studio and then I'm done. And forever the studio business changed. It changed from being a long, drawn-out process of creativity and experimentation to, for studio owners, fighting for every single session because people could finally do it at home. It was interesting, a few years later, I ended up working at Paisley Park with Prince, and I thought, well, this is it, right? This is the business model that isn't challenged. It's the small studios that will be hit by technology. I'll go work with Prince. He's a rock star. He's going to make records the rest of his life. Paisley Park will be busy. It'll be great. And it's interesting because Paisley Park is a beautiful facility here in Minnesota. It's in Chanhassen. It sits empty months at a time. Because Prince has figured out technology too. He realizes that Pro Tools and its ilk has liberated him from being stuck in one place. He can travel the world, he can gig, and whenever inspiration strikes, he can go there and record. While I was there, one of the records that he put out was called 3121, which I believe was the first record that Prince debuted on Billboard's #1. And the majority of it was recorded outside of Minnesota, in studios around the country, and also in his house. His technical team had literally taken a flight case with wheels and put a Pro Tools system in it. Prince had a little input on the side for a microphone and for a guitar. He could plug right in and record no matter where he was in the world. But what was interesting being at Paisley was also watching that Prince wasn't just innovating in the recording sector. He was innovating in the retail and the business sector as well, and many of you may be familiar with this. With the Musicology Tour, he bundled the new album with the cost of a concert ticket. So if you bought a ticket to the show, you also got the record, which meant ostensibly every couple of nights Prince sold another 15 or 20,000 records. And on top of that idea, he had a massive online website, fan website, for getting access to unreleased songs, unreleased albums, limited edition, live, box sets, all of this stuff. It was really exciting. So I made the decision that I wanted to take some of these other digital revolution ideas and bring them into my own community with my friends. And so I left Paisley and I joined a record label in St. Paul. And we tried to employ many of these same strategies, taking our music and putting it out into the digital ether into brand new stores that we now know today as iTunes and Amazon. 2006 was one of the first years that we actually saw digital revenue coming back in from our records. And we were amazed. We were actually making some money, right? 2007, sales doubled. 2008, sales doubled from there. We were actually making money, whereas a record label were like, we might break even this year. Then in 2009, over a course of just a couple months, sales fell by 83%. They absolutely cratered. I have the spreadsheets. It's fascinating. And what happened is these. Smartphones came out. iPhones, BlackBerries, and all sorts of other smart devices that could not just download content, but stream it. Services that we know now today like Pandora and Spotify and Mog and YouTube and all the others. And again, in another iteration of business, overnight, digital technology disrupted the entire business plan. After that, I got excited about making music again, and I started an advertising post-production company with some friends of mine. And the thought was, well, we're all musicians, and look at this digital revolution. It's sort of all coalescing in media, television and advertising. Let's get into that business. And so we thought, well, we'd be making jingles, right? We'd be making the 30-second music, the 60-second music behind the spots that you see on TV. And what's interesting is while we started out doing some of those, it was only a matter of months before, hey, can you guys make music for a pre-roll advertisement on YouTube? Hey, can we make an app and put some music into that? Hey, can we make some music that lives in a virtual reality thing so that if you take your phone and you put it on a barcode of a product, a thing pops up and it makes music? Right? All I've seen since I graduated, only 15 years ago, almost daily, is change, 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 change. Where digital technologies create massively new efficiencies and completely upend traditional business models. And it is not just the music business, right? Since I graduated, not that long ago, come on, not that long ago. Although it's astounding that in the parking lot there's an electric charging car station thing. That's incredible. It was a long time ago that I went to school. Since I graduated, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Yelp, Airbnb, the list goes on, OpenTable, all of these services that really transform how we work. And I'm not negative on any of those. I mean, if you're a consumer, if you're a student, and I've watched you all today wandering around with your iDevices and it's amazing, it's fantastic. The level of communication power we have at our fingertips is tremendous. But what I'm concerned is that our educational systems today aren't adequately preparing us how to use it to take advantage of it, right? And I think college really needs to change to empower the next generation. One of those things being, I think colleges, first, should teach entrepreneurship. And I mean at almost every level across any major. And I don't necessarily see entrepreneurship solely as you must start your own business. I see entrepreneurship as a much broader, systematic way of looking at a holistic cycle of product, idea, life, livelihood, career, right? So you understand I have this passion, I have this major, you're empowered to possibly know what to do with it, right? Now let's also be realistic, not everybody is going to walk out of here and become an entrepreneur, and trust me, your family and loved ones don't want you to, which is why I think entrepreneurship is equally on par with something called intrapreneurship. Intrapreneurship is where you have the same passion, spirit, excitement, and continuous learning cycle that entrepreneurs have. You just demonstrate it with inside another company. Because trust me, even if you don't go work for yourself, wherever you go when you leave here, that business will be fraught with change, and everyone will be looking to each other about how to solve it. Entrepreneurship, entrepreneurship. Secondly, I think schools should really up the level of digital literacy. Now, digital literacy is one of those sort of buzzwords that helps sell Wired magazine and things like that. And it's not about knowing how to open a web browser. It's knowing how to personally use a web browser, leverage the web and the power of technology. Because in many ways, what's defining today's new economy is participation, right? You're exchanging ideas. You are communicating one-on-one with people all over the planet. We've had talks today that have been talking about this. So you need to know how to participate. We need to learn how to change a whole room like this of thinkers into creators. Creators so that you are developing content that can live through all of these platforms to help you in your careers and livelihood. Here's the other thing. If you are indeed creating content, no matter what your major is, you now have a portfolio, much akin to an artist has a portfolio, here's my work. If you are studying and learning and working in the community and doing all of those amazing things I know you're doing, and there's a digital record of it, you suddenly have a much broader palette to excite an employer than simply a one-page resume. You have proof of all that you know in all of your capacities. Thirdly, in addition to entrepreneurship and digital literacy, I think schools need more support, and that's where alumni come in. We spend a lot of time, especially today, and this is why I wanted to talk about education. Every major media source in America has talked and questioned the value of education. Is education worth it? Look at how expensive it is. Look at how much debt students are under. Should there be a different model? I think education is tremendously valuable because I know, strangely, it was my biology degree. It was understanding the scientific method that let me test and retry and execute and understand all the change that I've seen in my career. We need to switch from a mode of just fundraising with our alumni to friend raising. Don't raise a dime, donate some time. Bring your ideas and your passions into the classroom to help our institutions see how the world is changing for the benefit of the students. It was funny, I stood or sat in this very room 20 years ago when Stephen Lewis, the president of Carleton at the time, joked that a liberal arts education will be something like, hey, do you want fries with that? You didn't laugh, you're actually like, And that's how I feel. And if we polled everybody that spoke today, we're seeing that some of their greatest passions are not coming from their major. I truly believe in the liberal arts model. I don't believe that college should just lead to a box that says job, right? If we can do those things and we can preserve the liberal arts and we can help educate citizens, you can do anything with a liberal arts degree. It won't be, hey, what are you going to do with that history degree? It will be, what can't you do with that degree? Thank you all. Thank you, Ted. Thank you, Carleton.